So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Yunus Arikan from ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy, and I'm also acting as the focal point of local governments and municipal authorities constituency. This is a great pleasure for me to lead you in this webinar prepared by ICLEI in its capacity as the LGMA focal point as well. For those who are joining this session first time, this is a monthly webinar for citizen regions engaged in the UNFCCC process, in particular with our agenda towards the 26th Conference of Parties at the November 2021. This will be an hour-long session. In this presentation, I would be delighted to be joined with two of my colleagues, Ladislas Ngedamimana, the Secretary General of Rwanda Local Governments Association, as well as Duncan Booker from Glasgow City Council, leading the COP26 stakeholder engagement. They will have some updates and announcements, and I'm very happy that they have kindly accepted to join us. Again, for those who have joined for the first time here to this webinars, we are recording this webinar, and then the presentation and the recording is available on the publicly later on. Throughout the webinar, we are keeping all the attendees on mute, and we would be then enabling you to type in your questions during the presentation, or after the presentation is over, you can raise your hand, as well as intervene verbally to the agenda that is covered. In that sense, we'd like to have an interactive session as much as possible, so that we can get the best out of this discussions. I am going through now to the agenda of today. We are running this webinar, as we said, for the past year, since February, and we usually start with our institutional framework on our engagement in the UNFCCC process. We're providing updates from the presidency, and as we have mentioned, we have some more announcements from our partners in this session that came up just a couple of weeks before, and it's good to recap with them. We would go through the agenda of what has happened since October, our last webinar, and we will be particularly highlighting some of the participations from national level, as well as some of our initiatives and the UNFCCC agenda. And then we will go through in the last part the upcoming events, or some of them are already taking place, so that what to expect in the upcoming couple of days or weeks. With that, let me just recall, as we have said previously, these webinars are covering the agendas in that particular month. In the past 9 months, we have covered our agendas with participation of our colleagues from the COP25 presidency, COP26 presidency. We were delighted to have the champions Nigel Topping and Gonzalo Munoz. We focused on a special session on climate, land, nature on the 17th of June. Then we've gone through our updates, especially in preparations to our events in September and October. In October, we had a special session. We have covered the October session as part of the Daring Cities agenda, and in fact, this was a bit unique because it was an opportunity for engaging other partners and interested participants. So we had a 4-hour session. It was split into two. This was 2 hours of our webinars with a particular focus on multi-level governance. Then we have continued with the first of its kind interaction with the COP25 Marrakesh Partnership process, which is the climate action pathways. We will go through that as well in the next couple of slides. So it was with the expert organizations leading process on the pathways, with especially the Latin American cities and regions. So that was a unique experience as well. And our sessions will conclude in December, on the 16th of December, which will be a wrap-up of our year of engagement, but we will also touch upon what to expect in 2021. So with this, I'd like to take us through a basic, let's say, setting the scene, why Paris Climate Agreement is important and why we are excited. For those who are familiar with the climate process, when the UNFCCC was kicked off in 1995, local and regional governments, they were one of the first 3 constituencies that were engaged in addition to the national governments. These were business community and environmental engineers, and that local governments were also among those who are following this process since the beginning. However, over this first 20 years, our biggest concern was that neither the UNFCCC nor the conference nor the Kyoto Protocol recognized local and regional governments as an actor, and therefore in 2007 we kicked off our roadmap, climate roadmap, with a view for engaging and recognition and empowerment of our constituency. After Copenhagen, let's say shipwreck we can call, we continued that there was technical negotiations on, they say, work stream 2, which is the action agenda turned into later on. We have created our Friends of Cities with the friendly countries. We participated in the 2014 UN Climate Summit, which ended up with also the historic Compact of Mayors, which later on evolved to the Global Covenant of Mayors. We also have started to provide input to the NASCA platform along with business through Carbon Climate Registry and CDP, and in fact these 2 also merged in 2009. After the Paris Agreement, we continued our advocacy, but why the things were different, as we mentioned, this is the reason why we're so excited and so engaged in this process, because in the preamble paragraph of Paris Agreement, we have a text which says that the Paris Agreement, the parties recognize engagement of all levels of government, and throughout the decision there are so many numerous agendas that we are relevant to, and during this process we have elevated our activities. We were participated in the Marrakesh Partnership. We were the driving force for Talanoa dialogues across the world. We have increased our engagement with the countries through an elevated concept of Friends of Multi-Level Action. We participated in the California Climate Action Summit and UN Climate Action Summit, and now here we are. In that regard, we are providing this as who is who in the COP26 process, and every month, in fact, there are some new updates. Just for setting the scene, every year this is a cyclic process. The country who presided, or political presidency, continues throughout the year to be the responsible of the implementation of the outcomes, and the country who will host the year would be prepared to take over the leadership. So this year we have Chile, COP26 president, 25 president. We have Minister of Environment Carolina Schmidt, as well as we have the high-level champion Gonzalo Munoz, who is also working now hand in hand with Nigel Topping as the UK counterpart, and Alok Sharma is the counterpart for the presidency role. The new things that is coming this month is that in May, the UK presidency has announced a Friends of COP group, a group of leaders. In that group, we had a mayoral representative. It was Eric Garcetti from Mayor of Los Angeles, but C40 chair. Over these months, the UK presidency advanced their engagement initiatives. They have created a Cities and Regions Advisory Council for the UK cities. They have introduced a new advisory council, devolved administration, ministerial advisory council. This is particularly within the UK that they have the unique governance structure. So the Wales, Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland are collectively called as devolved administrations. So at the ministerial level, they are creating their dialogues. And the UK presidency also created a civil society and youth advisory council, which I am joining in my capacity of ICLEI, but also LGMA focal point to make sure we have a dialogue with the civil society representatives. There are several other initiatives, but these are the most directly relevant for our LGMA constituency. And let's remember, usually they were planning to meet in Bonn at the technical level. This year it was June momentum. Because of the postponement, there's no decisions adopted this year, but now this process is advancing, especially also currently it's called climate dialogues, and we'll see what will happen in 2021, whether they will be able to convene as long as the pandemic conditions eases. Hopefully that someday we will be able to meet physically again. Every year, the engagement is there is a lot of agendas, technical negotiation points. So we as local and regional governments come up with our own summits or side events, which is showcasing our progress. We participate in the consultations through workshops and Marrakesh partnership agendas and action pathways. And as well as we contribute in the decision making in the sense that we can submit position papers, or we can share our ideas with our friends of multi-level action, and they can table to the negotiation documents. For the Glasgow, we have announced in Madrid in 2009 December that this COP should be the multi-level action COP. This should be the implementation of the spirit of the Paris Agreement. In that regard, we have mapped up the 6 priorities: raising ambition, NDC vertical integration and transparency, localizing climate finance, a balanced approach between mitigation and adaptation, and linked to circular economy and nature, and amplifying global climate action to initiatives to processes like urbanization ministerial or culture community and others, as well as in the other agendas. This in fact matches with the priorities of the presidency, which is focusing on adaptation and resilience, nature, energy, clean road transport, and finance. So this is now where our colleagues would be coming on board over the past couple of weeks during the Race to Zero dialogues and the local climate solutions for Africa. We have two important updates. First of all, the Rwanda the Association of Local Government Authorities joined to the COP roadmap of the LGMA. This is a unique moment because after Glasgow is over, the year after, Africa will be hosting the COP, and for the moment we don't know which country will be hosting it. We always had consultations with the host country regional authorities. And in this case, RALGA stepped up during the closing session of the local climate solutions for Africa, and they have announced that they will be joining our efforts. This is particularly impressive because Rwanda was at the same time the first African nation to submit a second NDC. So in that sense, Rwandan authorities and Rwandan local government authorities are also accelerating their work. We were planning to have Ladislas to join us, but I'm now receiving an update from him that due to an overlapping agenda, he's not able to join us. But over the next couple of years, weeks, and of course months, we will be working with RALGA in preparation of the African continent and cities and regions and their partners into the process as much as possible. And here, the other announcement is that at the beginning of the Cities Day on the 18th of November, Susan Aitken, the leader of the Glasgow Council, announced that as a demonstration of their contribution to the LGMA roadmap, they would propose a 7th pillar, which is climate justice and social equity, which speaks a lot of our heart in over these years. So I would like to invite now my colleague Duncan to give us why climate justice and social equity is such an important agenda for Glasgow. That could be at least the first hand of our interaction, and particularly on that front, as you see, for every pillar we are making progress in a number of agendas, and we would be very happy now to work with the Glasgow Council to make a solid agenda for the climate justice and social equity. Duncan, I assume you are online with us. Feel free to now unmute yourself if possible, or we can also unmute you from here. So the floor is yours, Duncan.
Thank you so much, Yunus. I think I'm unmuted now. And greetings to all my colleagues on today's call from Glasgow, Scotland. And I look forward to welcoming many of you to my city next November for a successful and safe COP26. It's a real privilege to say a few words here today. And as you heard from Yunus just there, the leader of Glasgow City Council, our mayor, Councillor Susan Aitken, has been very keen to get a key message out to the world and also to ourselves here in Glasgow as COP26 host city. And that message is fundamentally that sustainability and social justice must go together, both locally for people here in Glasgow and globally for the rest of the planet too, with a particular acknowledgement from Glasgow of our own complicity in the transatlantic slave trade and in our role with the British Empire, which is, of course, has left its impact upon other people's maps in places like Africa and the Middle East. And we're very keen to engage with the LGMA, which is one of our absolutely key partners in the road to COP26. It's naturally where we have the best impact because of local government. And so it's lovely to see that Rwanda is coming on board through its Association of Local Government Authorities today. And we're very keen, therefore, to get a message out that the potential to think about a seventh pillar to the multi-level action roadmap, which we already have, around climate justice and social equity. If I could just say a couple more words about this. I mean, we are currently consulting in Glasgow on our climate emergency implementation plan, and it contains two key principles. The first is that actions to address the climate crisis must not further disadvantage people and communities who already experience significant inequalities. And the second is that actions to create a safer and more sustainable city should also be aimed at building a just and more equal city. And that, of course, goes for Glasgow and for the world. And we're very fortunate here that at one of our universities, we have a Centre for Climate Justice, which was founded by Mary Robinson, and which will play a major part in our own thinking as we move towards COP26. So I won't say any more, Yunus, at that point, except to say that we stand ready to work with our friends and colleagues in the LGMA on the road to COP26, and that we would very much like to propose a seventh pillar around climate justice and social equity. Thank you for listening.
Duncan, thank you very much for this additional background, and it's really so encouraging to see this engagement from the host city, from the staff level to the political leader. Throughout the year, Mayor Arikan was unbelievably joining hand in hand with all our partners. She was in almost all regional events that we have hosted. She was joining. She joined in August the local Environmental Authorities Forum hosted by CC35 in Santiago, or hosted by Santiago, but this was a regional Latin American event. She was with us in Mannheim at the European Sustainable Cities and Towns Congress. She joined the Daring Cities in October, and then she was also with us in the Local Climate Solutions of Africa. In fact, she's one of the very unique political leaders that was able to follow all these, and in addition, she was also part of the Cities and Regions Advisory Council of the UK COP26 presidency. So we are delighted to have her engagement and her inputs, and actually, as you said, Glasgow has a lot to put on the table, and this agenda on justice and equity, obviously throughout 2020 had emerged at all levels. Just in the beginning of the year, there was also a joint statement of Global Covenant of Mayors and Global Task Force on climate justice and equity. I think that makes a fantastic contribution with your leadership as the city and as a staff, and as you said, beyond administration, but your stakeholders, especially with universities. So we would be ready to work with you in clarifying what could be the outcomes. We know you have also joined a number of other initiatives, for example, the Urban Transition Alliance, which are those industrial legacy cities towards a green economy. So definitely we are looking forward to elaborate on what can be done on the way to Glasgow and after, or at Glasgow, and of course afterwards. So it's purely a delight for us to hear your contributions. Feel free to join us today's webinar. Maybe there may be questions from our colleagues. I don't see anyone, but at the moment, but it can come up. But if you have to leave, obviously we are aware, but for sure, and we will be getting in touch with more in the next couple of days, as we will say, about the climate dialogues. But this is truly a demonstration of how we can advance our work with these kind of interactions throughout the year, so that the COP is a result, but just not the end itself of all our mobilizations. So let's continue for the next agendas in our slides. What was one of the key achievements of last couple of weeks was that you heard a couple of times that we have been engaged with the Minister of Environment of Japan, and they were running an impressive campaign about net zero cities, and they managed to get their cities and regions, prefectures, committing to climate neutrality with a population more than 60% of Japan national population. At Daring Cities on 21st of October, Minister Koizumi in particular emphasized the importance of the local and regional commitments driving national action. And just 5 days after this statement, the Prime Minister of Japan announced that Japan is formally committing to climate neutral by 2050. So Japan case was an excellent demonstration of how multi-level collaboration can raise national ambition. In addition to his statement, or during his statement, Minister Koizumi also mentioned that Japan is willing to host a net zero cities forum, obviously virtually, in February 2021. This is also an exciting moment because we have seen during the year how Japan, when they hosted this redesign platform, had introduced a new momentum to the negotiations or the concepts. So we are hopeful that this net zero cities forum will also be playing such an important role, and we will stand by the Minister of Environment of Japan and other partners as ICLEI and LGMA, and we look forward to developing this agenda together. And the other good news is that Minister Koizumi mentioned that this will be Japan's contribution to the race to zero. That's also an additional very, very welcoming announcement. So we were very excited with Japan, and the good news just didn't stop there. A couple of days later, or almost in the same days, South Korea, neighbor of Japan, also announced at the highest level by president of the country that Japan is going for a climate neutral community by 2050. South Korea has always been an ambitious partner in the UNFCCC process. Their NDC was relatively criticized by experts that it could be better defined so that to reflect the dynamic momentum in South Korea in terms of ambitious climate action. And this now commitment saying that South Korea will be climate neutral by 2050 is another model. And if you look at this chart, which is developed by ICLEI Korea office, there is some similarities on the way that Japan has experienced, in the sense that the bottom-up commitments were really encouraging for the national government to take action. On the 5th of June at the World Environment Day, all local governments of Korea, 226 of them, have committed to declare climate emergency. This was a remarkable moment. Climate emergency declarations was a movement that kicked off in 2016 in Darabin, Australia, but it turned out to a wave of action, especially in 2019 with the Fridays for Future taking the streets and enforcing many of the councils. One of the best examples was the case in Bonn. So this climate emergency, especially at the political level, at the council level, has been really very helpful so that then they can trigger more serious commitments. And that was the case in in Korea. A month after, there was another initiative that there was a new association created in Korea, and this time it was aiming for carbon neutrality of the local governments in Korea. And this was joined by 17 regional governments and 63 local governments. As the example follows now, this then feed into a parliamentary resolution. It was approved by a huge majority, almost a unanimity. And 1 month later, the president, which is the executive body of the country or the state, building on this mobilization of the local, regional, and national legislations as well, had announced that Korea is on track or is committed for 2050. I think this model that incorporates bottom-up vision and motivation, that respects the legislative process, that engages local and regional governments into the national commitments, is an excellent demonstration that if this kind of examples are followed, we can be expecting to have much more cities, or sorry, both cities, but also the nations, to commit to climate neutrality and deliver it much faster than they had even been envisaging. So that's exactly what the 1.5 degree goal asks for. The next this was in October, and we had the local climate solutions for Africa in November, which is biennial Congress. This time was virtual, but it was particularly focusing on climate finance. And in the year of COVID, African cities and regions and their representatives also demonstrated remarkable mobilization with this virtual Congress. And the final outcome will be finance roadmap for climate finance roadmap for Africa will be revealed soon. And that was the moment where we also had Ralga joining us. November was an intense agenda for all of us in the UN, the climate action process. We had the long-awaited November dialogue of the Race to Zero. That was driven by the champions Gonzalo Munoz and Nigel Topping. So on this 10 days, 9 to 19 of November, there were numerous sessions which was based on the pathway structure of the Marrakesh Partnership. And during this period, the champions revealed or released the executive summaries of the new climate action pathways. And they also invited partners to convene through dialogues, and several announcements were made. In particular, for our human settlements agenda, we have now officially clarified, and this is announced, that waste and consumption will be one of the two subgroups along with built environment in the human settlements pathway, and this will address the zero waste issues, this will address 1.5 degree living, and it will be addressing social equity. As we heard from Duncan, the fact that the host country is very active on climate justice and social equity, the fact that LGMA has now this embedded into its vision, and the fact that the pathway of Marrakesh Partnership also has a section for that topic, I think will give us the opportunities that at the local level we can make sure the race to zero, the transition to a low carbon economy, is designed as appropriate, that all stakeholders, all actors are benefiting from this transition, their impacts are minimized, and that the sharing of this new era is equally equitably distributed, and that all stakeholders are enjoying that the low carbon, climate resilient community is benefiting for all the partners of the society. So this is really a good news for all of us. During this 10 days, we had on the 18th of November a unique Cities and Regions Day that consists of 3 sessions, 3 one-hour slots. The first one was looking on the cities and the race to zero. That was the launch of the science-based targets. Then we had the multi-level collaboration, which focused on our efforts with national government and how we can make this NDC process much more ambitious. And then we had a discussion on how states and regions can join the race to zero. This was the afternoon agenda. In the morning, the other part of the human settlements group, which was the built environment, they also had hosted their own sessions, and this was remarkable mobilization with hundreds of participants and numerous announcements coming up, and I think the spirit was really welcomed by every partner and participant. Over that couple of days, there were numerous efforts and numerous announcements coming up. C40, GCOM, and CDP on the 9th of November announced their campaign for Cities Race to Zero. C40, it was the first organization to bring cities into the Climate Ambition Alliance in September. In December 2019, ICLEI joined this process. So now this Cities Race to Zero is aiming to mobilize more entries to the Race to Zero. In particular, that will be encouraging to endorse or embrace the science-based targets. Meanwhile, ICLEI has already announced that within its network there is more than 500 cities and regions committed to climate neutrality, and we hope they will also be part of the Race to Zero process through our climate neutrality framework. And within those partners, there is an intense discussion now how those processes can help each other, and we can make sure the existing climate neutrality commitments of cities and regions are both acknowledged, and those who are aiming to or able to run faster, they can also continue to do so and make the case for others to join as appropriate when they're ready. So stay tuned for some updates on this, let's say, agenda, and we look forward to sharing with you some more updates along the next couple of days. Now, in this 2 weeks that we are in, this week and next week, after the mobilization of the actors, let's say stakeholders, now it's time for the UNFCCC negotiators to have dialogues among themselves. Let's recall, there's no decision expected from this process, but it is a share of experience and updating each other. But it is particularly remarkable because the UNFCCC have subcontracted or hired a very professional virtual conference, let's say, software that is providing remarkable opportunities for engagement virtually. But there's also The design of the sessions were also very unique. For example, at the opening, usually in the traditional physical meetings, the interventions of constituencies are always at the end, when the rooms were empty, when there was no one listening to us except each other of the farmer or youth and business and cities. But at the opening of this first day, it was so designed that the stakeholder messages were broadcasted one after the other, the parties or the group of parties. That gave a very nice recognition that we are all together in this process, even though at the negotiations, decision-making process, it is the national governments who take the responsibility and the final decision makers, but the voices of the civil society, the voices of non-party stakeholders are heard appropriately. And in that sense, we have consulted our membership, the LGMA community, and there could be no better person than the mayor of Santiago as the capital city mayor of the presidency of the COP25, which is Chile. But it's not just because of that. Santiago also, as we said before, in August hosted the second local environmental authorities forum, which resulted with Santiago Declaration. And Mayor Felipe Alessandri, in his remarks, shared the spirit of Santiago Declaration, and it was in fact a very nice continuity of the leadership of Chilean stakeholders and government leaders. In that sense, we are very proud to have Mayor Alessandri voicing the LGMA points into the opening platform. Throughout the week, next week on Tuesday, we will have an event. It's a special LGMA event. This will be held in collaboration between ICLEI and Climate Change Association, focus on multi-level action. At the end of the sessions on the 4th of December, this time it will be Glasgow leader of the Council of the City of Glasgow, Susan Aitken, who would be delivering the LGMA closing remarks. And in that sense, this is also very suitable, appropriate, and very, very appreciated handover to the next presidency, to UK presidency. This time, the host city will be voicing the priorities and positions of the LGMA, and we are delighted, as you have seen with Duncan, that Mayor Aitken has been with us in all this months in our journey. So there couldn't be also a better person to voice the LGMA messages to the UNFCCC parties on the 4th of December and the Friday at the closing of the climate dialogues. Meanwhile, UNFCCC introduced new elements of engagement. For example, they invited stakeholders to provide 2-minute videos. At the moment, all the videos are uploaded into the UNFCCC YouTube channel, and there's a special compilation of 18 minutes, and there we had 4 of our leaders joining them. So in total, we have 6 messages from LGMA community. We have the Katja Dörner from Mayor of Bonn, Mina Arve, Mayor of Turku, Dolly Gavender from Kuadukuzu Municipality Mayor, Inaki Susaeta, Secretary General of Regions 4, and Gina van Beggen, Secretary General of ICLEI. We believe this diversity is also, again, our strength, and the level of our leaders reserving their time, sharing their ideas is also definitely a signal that is well received by UNFCCC and the parties, showing how LGMA is contributing to the implementation of the UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol, and the Paris Agreement. On the 3rd of December, there will be an important open dialogue. This is a practice that kicked off in 2017 as a result of the negotiations in the subsidiary body for implementation, that presidencies are invited to host open dialogue. When they say open, it means parties and non-parties have equal seats at the table, that they can talk as equal partners, and it is chaired by the presidencies. And for this, we have now all the constituents are reserved 15 seats, and we have a diversity of networks from Europe to US, from Africa to again global partners and Latin America. Also at the highest level, we have presidents of organizations, we have mayors, we have secretary generals. This is also reflecting our diversity. We have experts, advisors. So we believe this will also be a moment where we could convey, especially how multi-level implementation of Paris Agreement is crucial to deliver the Paris Agreement. So we look forward to that event. And across these 2 weeks, the experts of the networks in the LGMA have mobilized their nominations so that they were all channeled by us as the LGMA focal point to the UNFCCC. This was again another unique new feature. And now we have slots in several sessions. This means those colleagues of LGMA representatives, they will receive speaker invites. They will be able to interact. They will be able to take the floor, speak or raise questions. But any others, especially who are interested, they can watch what's happening in this sessions, and they can also type in questions through the question box. But those participants who are registered through the constituted focal points will be able to interact. And we also know there may be several sessions where we are invited as speakers, but this is a work in progress at the moment. This is an example, as we have said, how UNFCCC is providing equal opportunities to ministers and mayors and youth activists and gender representatives, trade unions. And here we are very happy that we have 4 of our LGMA representatives, Mayor of Bonn, Turku, Santiago, and ICLEI Secretary General. This is the compilation video photo, but as we said, all the full length of the sessions are also available on the YouTube channel. This is our last slide, and we're coming to a close of our presentation. It will be an exciting 3 days between 10 to 12 of December. We will start with an announcement from our partner from UK. UK 100 is one of those networks who are involved in the LGMA roadmap. They will be kicking off their own roadmap towards COP26, especially those cities and regions who are ambitious on clean energy, but they're also ready to step up their ambitions so that in addition to climate energy commitments, UK 100 will also invite its members to commit to climate neutrality. So on the 10th of December, stay tuned. There may be more announcements coming from UK 100 as our partner in the UK. On the 11th of December, City of Paris has taken the liberty and the moral duty to contribute to the celebrations of the 12th of December Paris anniversary, 5th anniversary, as the city who hosted the Paris Agreement Summit or Paris Conference of Parties, but also mobilized a huge demonstration of local and regional governments at the COP. The remarkable event at City of Paris City Hall was still recognized and still being referred as the turning moment. So City of Paris wishes to have a zero carbon forum. They will be reaching out to relevant partners. They would like to address both diverse and recent agendas such as the Olympic hosting arrangements or their initiative, this 15-minute city, but they will also ask for contributions on updates since COP15 and in Paris Agreement, or how we can connect to the European and other global green deals, or what is our strategy or how we will be preparing for the COP26. So there will be numerous sessions, and we will be waiting for the announcement from Paris in full details of the speakers of this session. Meanwhile, they will also conclude with a declaration which is being currently receiving inputs from select networks from globally, but also from European level. And on the 12th of December, as we said, the UN Secretary General, UNFCCC, COP25 and COP26 presidencies, Chile and UK, as well as government of France, are convening a more important meeting to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Paris Agreement. And this is, of course, an opportunity to announce additional commitments throughout the year. You have heard key parties like Chile and Rwanda, but as well as China, and then we just heard recently UK also announced their action plans and ambitious. So we may expect more to come, especially from EU and others. In that regard, the engagement of local and regional governments or constituencies are designed in such a way that they are invited to present 5-minute videos to be shown on demand in the website. C40, GCOM, and ICLEI received individual invites, but based on our discussions with our colleagues in the COP26 presidency, we're also now preparing a 90 seconds video on behalf of LGMA, which highlights the multi-level aspect of the Paris Agreement. In addition to those on-demand videos, the presidencies are also working with a number of partners. Those who are able to announce new commitments, they will be provided a 90-second slot so that they can also appear during the live stream of the summit. So this would be the agenda of the next couple of days until 12th of December. And on the 16th of December, we will have our roundup of the year at the last LGMA webinar. With this, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and you have heard inputs from Duncan. As we said, Ladislas unfortunately couldn't join us today, but we will keep engaging with him, and we will provide more updates about how we can reach out to Africa, in addition to the global networks, regional branches, but partners like RALGA. The floor is open for colleagues if they wish to provide any update, input, clarification, announcement. Feel free to take up the floor or write in the question box, and we are ready to respond, or we're ready to hear and listen from you so that we can enrich our discussion. So I'm just going back to the agenda of the webinar to keep you all recalling what did we discuss in this last 45 minutes. Yes, the floor is open now. Anybody who wishes to intervene verbally can raise hands, or you can type in the question box. I don't see any requests from the floor. Yes, Veronica. Veronica, you can unmute yourself. Veronica, are you able to unmute yourself? Patricia, can you help us?
Yes.
Yeah, now you're available.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes,
Hi,
very
Yunus.
well.
How are you? I just have a quick question regarding the LGMA at Presidency Open Dialogue on the 3rd of December. You mentioned that the floor is going to be open for many discussions. Are we going to have a joint statement from the LGMA participants and constituencies, or what is the expectation of our participation?
Thank you, Veronica. I remember, or I hope you can remember, in Madrid, you also joined. Actually, we were sitting together with Ole, you and me in that session, and you remember it was an open dialogue, and there were opportunities for more than one statement. So in that sense, we would hope this would continue. And of course, in the virtual atmosphere, how it will show up, we don't know. This will be 2 hours, and we have 15. It would be definitely helpful if we connect among ourselves who wishes to take the floor. We can continue over the next couple of days for and in consultation, so that we can check who can take the floor. It would be good to, of course, that as much as possible our delegation takes an intervention opportunity. So let's see, there may be more guidance from the presidency over the next couple of days.
Okay.
Once again, for those who are not familiar with Veronica, Veronica is the executive secretary of CC35, who had been very actively involved over the past couple of months, one of the newest members of the LGMA constituency, and they were the ones who had remarkably hosted the second local environmental authorities forum in collaboration with Santiago and Guatemala and Quito. And in fact, the Santiago Declaration is a result of this work, and they had been collaborating with numerous partners in the region, from ICLEI to C40, from WWF to FLACMA and others. So we are very happy with your leadership, Veronica, and your leadership of your CC35. We know Mayor Nasfura Tito, mayor of Tegucigalpa, as the president, but all the other mayors. So it was an excellent demonstration of how global agendas can resonate at the regional level. So we're also benefiting a lot of your leadership there. So this was purely appreciated, and on behalf of LGMA, I would like to once again express our happiness of and appreciation of your work in that regard.
Thank you, Yunus, for your kindly words, and I'm very happy to have this leadership, and our mayors have been fantastic supporting all the Santiago Declaration. We will move forward for next year to have more support about that.
Definitely. Great. Any additional inputs, remarks, questions? Feel free to take up the floor, request the floor, or type in the question box. If not, we're about to conclude. I see Duncan is still with us. That's really appreciated, Duncan. If there's any, let's say, concluding remarks, anything that you have heard, you can respond, and maybe if anything that was left over from your intervention, feel free we are delighted to have your inputs as a closing remark.
Thank you so much, Yunus, and it's great to have been on the call here today. And I always appreciate your insights and the wealth of information you bring to us all, Yunus. I'm sure I speak for many of my colleagues on the call here today as well on that. As I said, we're very keen to put out a message about sustainability and social justice. And the other message that the leader of the council, Susan Aitken, our mayor, has been putting out is that nation states make pledges, but it's cities and local government that actually deliver for the promise of a low carbon and climate resilient future. So as you've said before, Yunus, it's very much an opportunity, I think, for us to make common cause as local government, as councils across the world, to tell a story, an important story about how we're building both a socially just and more sustainable future. And I look forward to working with all my colleagues and the associations on this call in the months to come. And just to confirm, we are currently planning for an in-person COP in November of next year, but obviously we'll be mindful of different COVID scenarios. So I do hope I can welcome you all in person to my city in November next year. Thank you, Yunus.
Excellent, Duncan. In the morning, I was also commenting on what could be expected. Obviously, we're hoping that pandemic will be all soon over, but we were saying that even the pandemic is over, the conditions in Glasgow would, and in any other international conference from now on, will be much different than before. So the new normal we are expecting, and Duncan, we have also have been working with you. So I encourage, first of all our colleagues in this call and all your colleagues to register yourself to the virtual climate dialogue. You can see the atmosphere. I was hoping to get a screenshot, but I missed that. But the atmosphere is very, very interesting, and for sure, this is not a one-off effort. What we are expecting that in the next couple of months, when things come up in a different shape, they will not give up this future, this virtual conference facilities, and even in Glasgow, some of those will continue. So in that regard, honestly speaking, Duncan, I'm thinking of relatively limited in terms of numbers. I mean, we were used to expect 30,000, 40,000 people, and in Glasgow, I remember there were original plans of 50,000. Very likely we will be well below this number in terms of physical participation, but because of this unique experience through virtual engagements, very likely we should be prepared for a COP that is much more contributed with stakeholders all around the world. I know many of the stakeholders, mayors and then leaders, they were so happy when they can connect to in a virtual atmosphere to a minister, to a youth leader, and they were happy to say that, look, it is still possible that we are physically distant but socially connected, and in Glasgow, I'm sure you are all working on your hosting facilities preparations. For sure there will be a good presentation and representation, but we should also be prepared that the Glasgow will continue to be one of the first, probably the hybrid COP that is physical plus virtual, and in that sense we will be continue to support you. and ready to make sure an innovation that benefits all of us, both the hosts in terms of welcoming global delegations and those who are there either in physical but also virtual. So with this, I'd like to conclude this session, I think, with the last words from Duncan. That was once again a nice reminder that for sure we will have a COP in Glasgow, and for sure we will make it successful in terms of an ambitious COP, but more importantly, this will be the first multi-level action COP, as we have committed to reflecting the Paris Agreement spirit. So thank you very much, and have a nice day, good day and good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for your participation and engagement.